Hey, what's up? Dusk here. So I've got another repo lore video for you, and I'm basing some of this new theories off of the dev video that they just dropped a little bit earlier today or late last night, whatever it was. But they have a little teaser that they put in the video. It seems like they like to tease stuff in all these little videos they put out. But first, let's recap the first video. If you didn't see my first lore video, I theorized about how the monster outbreak probably started at the magic school, that the headmaster was probably responsible. This was verified by writing on the wall, that there is a monster called the headsman that's floating around that kind of looks like an old man. And so I theorized that the headmaster of the school was experimenting, accidentally turned himself into a monster, maybe opened a portal, probably just started accidentally turning also other people into monsters. And then that started there. Well, to expand on that theory a little bit, I also feel like the frozen science facility may have also done something similar because they have a bunch of frozen monster parts, right? And test tubes with chunks of black flesh floating in them, and it looks like giant praying mantis pincers and stuff encased in glass or ice. I think it's glass, but it's hard to say. So that might have been a secondary outbreak of a different type of monster, or maybe it's just where they were studying the monsters to try and figure out if they could do something with them, turn them into a weapon. And I had theorized that looking at the monsters was somehow also paralyzing or debilitating, or that would turn other, staring at the monsters too long would cause the humans to then start to turn into monsters. And why it was so hard to fight back against this, and why this has led to an apocalyptic scenario. But to expand on that, now I didn't talk about the Antarctic facility in the previous video because I hadn't really paid attention to it. But we'll kind of come back to that. The first thing I want to talk about, though, is the little teaser bit that they dropped in the dev video. Let me see if I can find that spot really quick. It was right here, right here, right here. So previously I talked about how I thought the semi-bots, not robots, but semi-bots were actually androids, and they only called them semi-bots to try and cover up the fact that they were made out of human remains. Well, right here we have what looks like to be a broken down semi-bot that has been put on display, and you can see it's holding a human skull, but more than that, the eye socket has been destroyed, as if maybe it had ripped the skull out of its own head. And you see some kind of black, the liquid coming out. But if you look really close as we get down to the leg here, it almost looks like there's bone. That looks like bone, does it not? It's even got a little bit of red to it. I don't know if we can get a good look at the arm. We don't really get as good a look at the arm. Well, I guess kind of right there. But either way, I think the skull is the biggest thing, right? It looks like it had malfunctioned and then ripped the skull out of its own, dome, which oddly enough gives me or reminds me of the original RoboCop movies, where they were trying to prototype additional RoboCops, but they all failed, and one of the RoboCops tore its own head off, right? When it started to malfunction. So just I don't think it's related. I don't think it's a nod to RoboCop, but either way, I think this gives more, lends more evidence to the fact that the semi-bots are made out of people. And that leads us right into the next thing I want to talk about, which is that Antarctic facility. Because the monster parts there, like I said, look like giant praying mantis style parts, a more gruesome kind of monster, but they're encased in ice or glass or some kind of resin or something. And so I don't wonder if the actual monsters are so horrific that part of the point of the semi-bot is that they're coded to not see the monsters for how they really look because they're too horrific. And it's terrifying, and humans just shudder in fear instead. And we've seen it again in the gas station. There's a skeleton that's just hiding up in the attic, where just and that person starved to death up there. Like, they weren't coming down for anything, right? They were terrified, paralyzed with fear. And so the semi-bots, which need free will, need that human intellect, but cannot be completely human, are coded to see monsters as goofy frogs with knives, and the Grim Reaper looking thing, which is not as Grim Reaper-y as it could be, and so they're basically you still identify them as enemies, right? But they don't look as horrifying as they are. And this again goes back to what I said about the huntsman, the guy with the gun, right, the rifle, because he's still clearly human. But again, if you look at the blindfold, like, you can see blood coming out from the blindfold. He had gouged his own eyes out, or somebody had gouged his eyes out. And that seems to be the only way that he was able to survive. And I just walks around with his gun and is just blamming stuff. And he shoots the semi-bots because he just assumes that they're monsters too, right? And so he does seem to do pretty good then. Like, he's able to survive. So it all kind of ties together, I think, quite nicely. I really like this. And they show what looks like to be the next level they're working on, but it's not fleshed out yet. Like, it's still just kind of like blocked in, and they don't have all the textures or anything yet. But, we do know that there is a new level coming. But this did, one more thing I want to touch on really quick before I go, and that's what these initial levels are supposed to represent. I think the school is ground zero. I think the Antarctic facility might either be ground zero or like the ground zero research facility, like where they were trying to mount their initial pushback. And it makes sense. It's in Antarctica, right? If mankind was fleeing away from the monsters, like, Antarctica is uninhabited, so that uninhabited by humans, I should say. So that was a place to flee and fall back to. Now, the only one that confuses me is the Headsman Manor. What that's supposed to represent. Maybe that's just where some humans manage to survive a little bit, and that's what, like, the huntsman is. Maybe the huntsman isn't a single individual, but there's actually just some humans alive, and they manage to survive at the manor. And so that's like some kind of weird, like, blind cult of people who manage to, like, eke out a survival. Or eke out some sort of life there, right? I don't know. Tell me what you think in the comments, if you have any theories, if you agree or disagree on some of this stuff, and if you've noticed anything lore related in the game or any of these dev videos. Anyway, that's gonna do it for me. Thanks for watching. We'll catch you in the next one.